What happens when a liar forgets which lies he told to who? My brother has been the golden child my whole life, and I've spent just as long feeling like the family outcast without understanding why. Aunts who used to squeeze me tight started keeping their distance. Cousins stopped inviting me places. My grandmother looked at me like I might explode at any moment, and I could never figure out what I'd done wrong. The first crack came at Thanksgiving, when my aunt cornered me in the hallway and said, "I've forgiven you for what you said about my cooking, but I wish you just told me to my face instead of talking behind my back." I asked what exactly I'd said, and she got this hurt look on her face. That my food is inedible and you only come to family dinners for the free wine. I had never said a single word about her cooking in my life. A few weeks later, I stepped outside at my mom's birthday dinner for a phone call, and came back just in time to hear my brother say, she still hasn't paid back that $3,000 she borrowed last spring. I froze in the doorway, because I had never borrowed a single dollar from him in my entire life. He spotted me and changed the subject, and when I tried to bring it up later, my mom sighed and said, "I don't want to be in the middle of sibling drama." I told her he was lying, and she gave me this exhausted look like I was the problem. Then my cousin asked how I was holding up after getting fired, and when I said I hadn't been fired, she gave me this pitying look and said, "Your brother told me you got caught stealing from the register. It's okay if you don't want to talk about it." I quit that job for a better offer, but she just nodded in the way people do when they think you're lying to their face. My grandmother pulled me aside at Christmas and said, "I need you to understand why I get nervous when you raise your voice. Your brother says you have terrible anger issues and once threw a glass at the wall during a fight with an ex." That explained why she flinched when I reached across the dinner table or laughed too loudly. My uncle pulled me aside at a graduation party and said, "Your brother mentioned you've been struggling with substances, and I want you to know the whole family is rooting for you to get better." I've never touched anything harder than cheap wine in my entire life, but after that conversation, I started noticing things. Someone always seemed to put the liquor bottles away when I walked into the kitchen. My cousin stopped letting me hold her baby. Every time I went to the bathroom at a family event, someone would knock and ask if I was okay within 2 minutes. My brother had told the one person in our family who would take it the most seriously, and that person had clearly told everyone else. He'd been running a years-long campaign to poison everyone against me while smiling at me across the dinner table. I tried to set the record straight with my uncle, and he just squeezed my shoulder and said, "You don't have to be ashamed of anything." That's when I understood defending myself only made me look guilty. Every denial sounded like an addict making excuses. My brother had planted these seeds so deep that the roots were impossible to pull up on my own. The annual family reunion was coming up in August, first time everyone would be in the same room in nearly 4 years. I stopped trying to defend myself because I finally had a different plan. The reunion was loud, and my brother was in his element, holding court at the big table while everyone laughed at his stories. I sat at the end and waited. When he finished bragging about his promotion, I raised my glass and said, "Tell everyone about our Florida trip last summer." His grin widened, and he launched into how I got so drunk at a beachside restaurant that I knocked over a waiter's tray and embarrassed the family so badly we got kicked out. My aunt's face scrunched up. "That's weird. You told me she wasn't even on that trip." My cousin's head snapped up. "Wait, you told me she threw a tantrum and flew home early." My grandmother set down her fork. "Which version is true?" My brother started stammering about misremembering. My uncle cut him off. "You told me there was no Florida trip and the family hadn't spoken to her in over a year." Heads turned as everyone realized they'd all heard different stories, and my brother opened his mouth but nothing came out because there was no lie that could cover all the other lies. My little sister looked up from her phone, completely oblivious. "Florida? He was on house arrest."